Okay, so before we start, I just wanted to make the announcement that Thaddeus Russell is coming to Parallax to have a wonderful course on an interesting course on Gaza, on the war in Gaza, Israel, Palestine.
Is it going to be
Uh,
interesting or wonderful?
Both, I hope,
Okay.
wonderfully interesting. And it's the 25th of November. That will be in 10 days, more or less. And it's great because I mean I'm absolute idiot. I'm neither a politician nor a historian, and so I'm just. We had like the last two podcasts on the topic of the war, but to have an actual professional historian come to Parallax to talk about this and to educate us.
Hmm.
That's something which is good, even if it doesn't reflect my personal opinions. I think my personal opinions are kind of biased and short-sighted because I never went
You had
there.
to have that caveat in case somebody comes and attacks you for your personal opinions. It's very convenient to be an idiot
It is actually, yes.
because then you don't have to stand behind any of your positions.
Oh,
Right.
well, I mean, to be it's like that I'm what I think about comedians, and so
Hmm.
they have the freedom to express whatever they want to express without ever being responsible or culpable for it. So,
Exactly.
since we are working on our comedic chops here, I think we're on the right track, inviting
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
real folks to the show. No?
Yeah, but sometimes highly intelligent, very well informed, people with university degrees are also idiots. And really dumb people are incredibly, insightful.
Sure.
So you
But
can feel okay about that, Tom. I'm
no,
just
no,
trying to
no.
make you feel better because you said you were, you know,
No, sure, but I mean, my what is it called? The resolution that
yeah,
I have with which I can look at the Gaza problem. That's like very shallow, really.
yeah,
Uh,
gotcha.
and so to have a historian who really is able to, look at all the different arguments and look at the history and to make this course. And so I'm very proud that he's coming to Parallax and hopefully that will be a great session. So, but we don't talk about politics today. We're doing movies, right?
Movies, yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So
Movies.
because you watched The Killer
Mm-hmm.
recently, right? And
Yeah.
because I thought that would be that we start with this because that's the more fresh one. It's so what do you think about David Fincher's The Killer?
Sure. Well, who is the killer? Well, I mean, maybe we'll have to talk about Israel and Hamas again if we talk about the killer. I'm sorry, I know you don't want to be political here.
No.
I'm sort of teasing, but there's a way in which the killer is the nihilist, uh, from the West who's lost his religion, he's lost God, he's lost every sense of meaning. So what else is he gonna do but enjoy himself and kill people? Enjoyment, pleasure. That's what matters.
Mm.
And if one person wants to kill people, and that's why shouldn't they? That is not a comment that has much to do with the film, but it does and it doesn't.
Mm. So I watched it twice.
Twice. Okay.
Yes.
You liked it that much.
No, I
Yeah.
didn't like it at all. And the first time I watched it in the cinema, and the second time I watched it on Netflix because I was thinking, or maybe I missed something.
Hmm.
Because I mean, it's a David Fincher movie, and David Fincher is basically at the apex of American directors. And I was like, what the fuck? What the shit is that? What kind of
Oh,
shit?
so you had high expectations.
Yeah, I mean, he made Gone Girl, and he made Fight Club, and he made Zodiac, and he made all these great movies that
Mhm.
have layers and layers of storytelling and complexity and very stylish everything. And then you're confronted with a story that has been told 500 times already. And I was
Hmm.
like, why does a person like a director like David Fincher choose a project like this?
Yeah,
Um,
it's a good question. I guess it's genre, right? So he's making a gamble of like, if you do the best genre movie ever, then you kind of win. You win the award. You're the coolest, you know. But again, I agree that this movie kind of failed to be that somehow. And I
because
don't even know
normally,
why, because it was very stylish, you know, and it was very like the acting was good, and Tilda Swinton was good, and all the sets were pretty awesome. But yeah, but there was something extremely hollow about the movie.
I mean, even if you do a new genre piece with the intent to make like the best ones, you add something new, a new element to the movie. You're not just repeating what everybody else has done since French cinema and Alain Delon, in the 50s, 60s, being a ice cold killer, and something goes wrong, and then he kills all the people that want revenge, and that's the end of the movie. That's a movie from the 50s or 60s. And so if you want to
Mhm.
do that again, you have to add an extra layer to it. And normally Fincher is famous for adding unexpected layers to storytelling. But then you're confronted with that movie, which is like has no more layers than an old French killer movie with Alain Delon from the 60s. And it's
Yeah,
like, so
and I agree, and also the big moment, right? The big line was like, you know, the reason, like his reason why he did what he did. He goes, you know, why I do what I do, and it's because he says, I don't give a fuck, right? It's not a good line, and it's not believable, and then in the later film, he does give a fuck. He doesn't. He's just
right.
ordinary. They make him ordinary, right? If he'd been a good psychopath, you'd have to develop sympathy for him, and then have that sympathy somehow um, taken away. But or maybe not. But in any case, I think that the line was unbelievable
I
as a
don't.
line for a
Yeah, yeah.
cold hard killer. A cold hard killer would never say such a thing. A cold hard killer, has a earnest belief in what they're doing.
Yeah, and if he would be, I mean, you're right. And if he would be like a true psychopath, he wouldn't care about, the loved ones that he's trying to, you know, help basically and take revenge on, because they got assaulted or whatever,
Yeah, he's that
So,
guy.
yeah. And so there's this thinking that, one thought that I had was that it might be like a companion piece to Zodiac. Have you seen
Hmm.
Zodiac?
Hmm. A long time ago, yeah,
So it's a
yeah.
movie basically which revolves around the Zodiac killer. Nobody catches him, and so it's with Mark Ruffalo and
Hmm.
what's his name? Tony Stark. No, what's his name? The who played Tony Stark in the Avengers? The guy. I don't know. So and that was an awesome movie, and it revolved around a team of policemen and journalists to catch this killer. And you never saw him basically. And so for me, the movie The Killer was kind of like the accompanying puzzle piece thematically to Zodiac, because it just centered around this ice cold killer that is so methodical that nobody catches him, and it's just his personal view. And you call him nihilistic. I think his whole voiceover was very narcissistic. It's just me. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. It's like, you have to be
Hmm.
precise. You have to breathe. It's like, and that was the big change. It's like, if you look at old killer movies, the voiceover that they use is in most cases, analysis of the culture they're living in.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's not,
Hmm.
me being the ice cold killer, breathe and be cool. That never happens in these movies from the 70s or 80s. It's always, an analysis, a class analysis or something else. It's never about them. And so, but the killer played by Michael Fox, it's just, everything is about him. And so in the way that Zodiac is about all the time about something else, the Zodiac is, the killer is exclusively about him.
Hmm.
And so
Well, maybe that is the commentary of the time, that he's a narcissist, yeah, and that is
right.
the nihilism of the time, right?
Yeah.
This sort of this narcissism, who's, even his sort of like cool house in Honduras or wherever it was, or Mexico, was sort of like, kind of like, so what? There's just nothing about the character that was well. I like the fact that he did yoga. That was pretty good. That was a commentary, like the fact that he was like doing yoga before he was killing people. That was kind of
Yeah.
interesting. Like he was a health fanatic. But again, that's like I guess another way you would create a killer and make him interesting would be that he would be like the people of the time. And so there's a commentary there. The health food guy from California who's actually a killer. In other words, the dark side of this, nice guy, or just ordinary health obsessed fanatic. I don't know.
Yeah, but the weird thing is, his egotism actually stands in the way of him doing his job. And I mean, that could have been a comedic element, because I mean, he's so in his routine that his routine obstructs him to kill his target, if you remember that scene. So he's in his thing and breathe, and then he misses like a very easy shot, basically, and that sets the whole movie in motion, basically. And that could be taken as a commentary that extreme narcissism, puts you in a distance to the world and doesn't make you a functioning member of society. But
or extreme conscientiousness, or extreme efficiency. Like
yeah,
there's
yeah,
something
yeah.
wrong with extreme efficiency, right? There's always, something, you if you follow the rules to strictly, then you're bound to, something is bound to go wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how would you, let's say, I guess it was pure genre, right? No, I mean, maybe he just did it as an exercise in pure genre, but how would you rewrite it to make it, I wonder, to make it
No, I
something
think
more
I
interesting?
mean, I think if you add a comedic element, you know that could be
Hmm.
interesting. But to play it like that. And so there was also this kind of thing, and it is not my observation. There's this BBC reviewer that I really like, Mark Kermode, and he does like these BBC reviews on movies. He's really good. I don't know if you know him. And he noticed that you have this 5-minute segment of Tilda Swinton coming in, and Tilda
Hmm.
Swinton is always great, right?
Yeah.
But more of half of the screen time that she has, she tells a joke, with the hunter and with the bear, and then the hunter tries to shoot the bear, and
Yeah.
then he fails and comes again, and then the bear says, "Well, maybe you come here for different reasons," which would be getting molested by the bear. And so, but the whole thing, and Kermode notes that there was just a movie out half a year ago with the same joke. So you have basically
Oh.
5 minutes screen time of Tilda Swinton rehashing a joke which was just told in another movie, right? And so
Oh.
so why would you do that? Why would you waste a talent like Tilda Swinton to do that? And I mean, she does not have a meaty role at all, and so it's very weird to squander these chances that you have.
Hmm. Yeah, I've noticed that about movies on Netflix, though. Sometimes there are two movies that are almost exactly the same. They put them out like 6 months apart, and they have the same theme. They picked some sort of theme,
Yeah.
like what was the one about the drug war, or the sales lady who was selling oxy or something like that. So there was
Oh, yeah,
there was
yeah,
a movie
painkillers.
about that, painkillers, and then there was a movie exactly the same movie, basically,
Yeah, Yeah,
Maybe it was on Amazon or something, but they were the exact same movie.
yeah,
So I don't know, maybe it's commercial interests just coming into film. You would think a guy like David Fincher would have more oversight or freedom or whatever. But well, and that's a good point. Yeah, it's a good point that um, there's this when something is lacking, it's a rehash usually.
yeah,
I think when something is lacking a certain artistic quality, it's always because there's a theme that's been overdone.
yeah. And then I was thinking, maybe there's something to it, what, Quentin Tarantino said, that there are so many directors that, when they enter the third trimester of their life, let's say, they're lacking the libido and the aggressiveness to do something new, which is the reason why
Mm-hmm.
Tarantino himself wants to quit doing movies after the next one. And so it's like it's the Fincher movie seems like an old man's movie without any verve, without any new hard, without a
Yeah.
hard cock that's being shoved in your face, metaphorically. It's like, oh no, I have this new thing. It's like with the excitement of a director in his 30s or 40s or
With
whatever.
the excitement of a big cock in your face. That's
Yes,
what you're saying.
yes.
Okay. Well, as I always say, people have different, different interests, and
No, but you know what I mean. It's like we
people
talked
swing
about.
in different ways.
If you have a product, a book, or like you create a movie or a song,
Hmm.
and you're so full of life force and eros and libido, you just have a hard cock. It's like, oh
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
you
got it. Yeah.
go with the world, and so this is a limp dick movie. That's what it is.
It's a limp dick movie. I would agree 100%. Well, whereas I just watched an old Clint, it wasn't that old. It was like 2008, a Clint Eastwood movie, Mystic River. What a great movie, man. That was
Yeah,
such a good film.
yeah.
And Clint's he was an old man when he did that, and he's still an old man. And so he's still got a hard cock, I guess.
Right now he's 95. I don't know, or 93. I don't know how.
I don't know. Some 93-year-olds are, but anyway, I don't know what his last movie is. I forget. Do you know what his last movie was?
Crime Macho.
Was not very good.
No.
Wasn't good. Well, anyway, but so he was good up until 80. So that means, and also I think he sort of improved over his career in a way.
Absolutely.
He got deeper and more emotionally deeper anyway. Like he was never an intellectual filmmaker, but in terms of drama, that was
Mystic River was an amazing movie.
it was
Really.
it was heartbreaking drama, which was tough, and there was nothing like everything was good about it. I thought in terms of cinema, it was like this is how you should do cinema. It might not be the most innovative movie ever made, but it was, but everything was right about it. That's what I
Yeah, yeah.
felt when I watched it from 2007. And I wonder if I've seen a film like that I felt like that in a little while. It might be that the limp dickness is just pervasive of the entire industry, but I could be wrong. Like you know,
Yeah, but again, it's like I think I mentioned that already. I mean, this quote of Tarantino that every spectator in the cinema who looks at the silver screen has an inbuilt feeling if that which is depicted on the screen is right, and so you have like an instinct, that if the movie and the theme and how it's filmed, if it's done correctly, and you have this feeling, this tingle when it goes off, and so he describes it very well. This feeling that goes off is something not right, and so in
mhm.
Mystic River, it's like I have the same feeling, like everything is right, right. So it's like it's a good movie. It's like there's no error and there's no misstep. But I had this feeling with The Killer from Fincher that from the beginning there's something not right here. It's something is
Well,
off.
well, I guess if the film is a reflection of the director, maybe there's something off with Fincher. And this is why I'm sort of why I got a nihilistic impression of the film. that it's. I mean, that was the script. That was he was the nihilist. He's like, I don't believe in karma. I don't believe in. He even says that I don't believe in anything like that. It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
Even though he's practicing yoga and he's using these things, so he's like, he's doing. He doesn't believe in anything, and I think the film doesn't believe in anything either. It just believes in like style over substance, or form over meaning, or something like that. So it's I mean, this is built into Fincher's films, but when you can have a hard cock and be a nihilist and be very convincing when you're young. But I think during the later periods of your career, if you're still a nihilist, then you haven't found God yet or something,
Yeah.
which sounds a little bit.
No, but it's like, let me give, I mean, just an example of what was wrong with that movie. So if you normally have I call it a surveillance scene. So you have a killer, and imagine
Mm-hmm.
the killer waits for his victim, in a crowded city. So he's sitting in a car, and then he follows his victim, like there are thousands of people. And so it's kind of believable that the victim doesn't know that the killer is on his or her heels, basically, because it's a crowded place. Right. And even if it's a chase done by a car, it's believable that the victim doesn't feel that, there's somebody behind him or her. Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But in this particular movie, there was a scene when the killer is going to Florida, like the outskirts of Florida. They're just fields, and then he looks for a guy to kill who lives in a house. It's the only house in the field, and then he waits there in his car for a day, and so he sees that the guy comes out of the house, goes back, drives away, and he just sits there in the car, and nobody sees him. It's like, that's not believable. If I would have a house, if like a farmhouse, and there for 1 hour, for one day, it's like a guy sitting in a car
Mm-hmm.
and so I was like, I would know that something is off, especially if I'm in the mafia or whatever,
Yeah.
right? And so the whole thing is not believable.
Oh, I didn't think about that, but I thought that was part of the. I thought that was an intentional move, like to make it absurd, right? Because he's absurd and his life is absurd and everything's absurd. So let's just make it absurd. But I guess that sort of fell flat. I think
Yeah,
if you make something so unbelievable, it's kind of good. It works kind of in a stylized way, right? Like it's like a commentary on. It's like that. It's like when it's like when the filmmaker is commenting on his own movie in the middle of the film. I don't know what you call that as a technique,
sure. A meta
but
commentary, yes.
it could be some kind of meta commentary, but probably was too subtle or not subtle enough, or I think there was a lot of moves in that movie like that were sort of
Yeah,
pretentious
but that's
arty
what
moves that didn't work. you know.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. It doesn't work. So imagine you're living in Fontainebleau. It's a little town, right? It's not big. But imagine you would come home from university and there's a guy sitting in a car right next to your door. And you think, you go back, and then it's like, okay, there's a guy. And then you go shopping and the guy's still there, and then it's
You
like, oh,
might
that's
notice
weird.
him, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you go out with your dog. I don't know if you have a dog, but let's assume you have a dog, and you take a
Yes, I have a dog. I have a
dog,
pug.
and then
His name is
then you
Walter.
go.
Yeah, like Walter Benjamin. Yeah.
Yeah, and so you have a stroll. It's night at 9, and the guy sits still there and pretends not to be seen. And then you start to talk with your wife about that guy that's like in front of your house for 8 hours now. And then you go to the university in the morning, and he's still there, and so then something is off.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's what I mean. That's like,
Well, but this again, I thought that was sort of a bit. Well, the whole fight scene was sort of like, he keeps getting the shit kicked out of him, and he's a skinny little guy, and he gets up, and then he ends up, he ends up killing this guy, and he should have been dead at least 15 times before he ended. So
yeah.
I thought that was sort of stylized, kind of action, but And that was kind of interesting, that scene where he was fighting the big guy because it happened all in the dark. I thought that was kind of an interesting scene just aesthetically.
Aesthetically,
Um,
it was good. Yeah, sure. I would agree. Yeah.
again, there was a lot of good aesthetics in this film. So I think what it is 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 just aesthetics. This film and you know, whereas if we're comparing it to Mystic River, this is just, Clint Eastwood's not an arty guy. He's just a meat and potatoes type, right? So there's not much aesthetics except it's New Jersey, and that's New Jersey, and so it wasn't stylized, but it had substance.
I'm
So
not.
often I like stylized films, but it's hard to make a stylized film that has substance. If you have both, then you have a real winner. But this was all style and no substance.
I know what you want to say. I'm not fully agreeing here because I
Hmm.
think there's a persona that Clint Eastwood projects, and
Oh
then you
yeah.
have the artist behind it because he makes all of the music for all of his music by himself. So it's like he's a real artist, and
I
so
see.
but
Yeah.
he so but he has like this rough tough guy persona, Dirty Harry kind of thing that he projects through his movies, but I don't think that he particularly is like that. I think he's like very sensitive, as far
Oh,
as what I've read, a very artistic kind of guy.
sensitive, artistic, yes, but not overly trying to be cool. You know.
Right. He's not glossy
I mean,
style.
he's basically a Republican, right? He's not a pretentious, artsy New York avant-garde thing. He's just he's basically conservative in his. He might be artistic, but he has a conservative quality. But I think the point you're making is like he creates a coherent cinematic universe.
Right.
He doesn't just put things together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't do pastiche. He's not at all a postmodernist, right?
Yeah.
He's thoroughly modern, right? In this, I would say, in his cinema, there's an ethic there. In other words,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's a
Absolutely.
strong ethic. There's a brotherhood, thing that going on. There's meaning and ethic, right? Whereas in Fincher, it's postmodern
Right.
in the good way because it's a creative it's a creative uh, description of nihilism, right, or something like that. But but it's not meta modern either because there's no ethic in it. It's just it's sort of the death of God or something.
Yeah. I mean, Fincher is famous for doing postmodern movies. I mean, Fight Club is the
Yeah,
apex of a postmodern movie. You know.
yeah,
So and highly influential. But I mean, again, if just a analysis or description of narcissism or nihilism, whatever you want to call it, is that what you're bringing to the table now? Is that the end of postmodern movies if a guy like Fincher does that? It's like is there nothing more that you have to offer?
well, I think the ethos itself is hollow and leads to hollowness. But in the hollowness in the beginning is a good social critique. Like Fight Club was a very great social critique. Whereas if it's just hollowness without the real social critique, I guess there's little moments of social critique in this film, but you're not there's no again there's it's like it's just it's all style and no ethos, no ethics, no substance, no you know
Yeah.
so yes, in a way it's cool, but in a way it kind of falls flat. And I hate movies like that. I'd rather have movies that are uncool, somehow. Even though I guess that when watching it, I kind of it was like watchable. Like it was fairly watchable.
I mean,
But
maybe, I mean, do you remember in the 90s, when, the 90s, post Pulp Fiction, when all these
mm,
kinds of postmodern movies came out that had, punch to it, and
yeah,
you would watch them, and your mind would be blown because something happened, something very unexpected because, you know, the narrative structure had changed, the
Like
way
Uma Thurman with the needle or something like that. That's what in Pulp, was it Pulp Fiction?
you mean Kill Bill, yeah. Or I mean,
No, Pulp Fiction, the needle in her stomach. It was like, that was surprising. It's like,
yeah,
or
but
John
also,
Travolta showing up like looking like a middle-aged fat guy. He was like overweight. It's like, you don't see John Travolta being overweight. Yeah, the little things like that he put in, which were just surprising. Is that what you
yeah, but
mean?
yeah, but I mean not just Pulp Fiction. I mean like in the cloud, in the aftermath of Pulp Fiction, there were so many French and movies and American
Mhm.
movies that are kind of broke completely the mold of modern filmmaking. I mean, many dog like and Irreversible, and you know, the Gaspar Noir and French brutalism and all these kind of things where just like they had such a punch to it, you know, because it's like, oh, there's something happening, you know, in the sphere of movie making. And The Killer, again, as a postmodern movie, it doesn't have any punch at all. It's just
Oh yeah,
like this numbness that you have.
numbness. Yeah, Fassbinder was just a wanker, right? Kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
a
yeah, 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 yeah. Mhm.
basically is a wanker. You know, he's basically a guy who just wanks. You know, so it's like even his killing technique, it's all just like technique. It's like, I do this and I do this. Here's my recipe. You know, wank, wank, wank.
Yeah,
Yeah, but not interesting.
yeah,
Yeah. Um, Not even exactly sexier or something. Not even that. Just kind of. I guess he was kind of. Yeah, there was sexy quality to the guy, but I mean, as an actor, I think is like, okay, he's a good actor. He's kind of. But
yeah.
in that role, it's like, I think that's maybe what you're saying, like what you were saying about Tilda Swinton. She was kind of in the wrong role. Like, this guy has the energy to be that kind of actor in a different role, in a different film, in a different.
Yeah, if she, you know, what's this guy's name? You know, the guy who does all the Wes Anderson. If she does a Wes Anderson movie, she shines. She's strong. She's like,
Yeah.
she adds punch to her role. You know.
But I could almost imagine a similar style movie to this with the same actors, but just, yeah, as you say, there would be just with the extra dimension of really creative humor, or, and it would work, but the flatness of it, yeah, which was, I guess that's the intention, right? To be hard boiled or something, or just to be flat, or to be like, but again, maybe that this kind of film, this kind of hard-boiled, flat detective guy,
Yeah.
he's been overplayed as an archetype. Maybe he doesn't have any relevance anymore or something. I don't know.
I mean, it's a question. It's like, I think if cinema really transforms and goes full blown into a postmodern or metamodern kind of thing, then, you know, you can have a topic like this, and make something new out of it. But this is just, you know, hollow.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Are you still there?
And I still don't find that there's anything.
I'm not hearing you. Give me a sec. There's something going on.
Something wrong with your
the
sound.
microphone. Right. Go ahead.
I was just saying that whatever this postmodern thing is, I don't know. I don't know if that's the answer either. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
No, but I mean, it's like,
to art in this time. That's a good question, because something new. Okay, what, you know? Do we need, like, I know there's novelty is important, but okay, here's something that I was reading. I was revisiting Girard recently. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And Girard's theory is basically that Christianity created realism, in the sense that, you know, it was the story told from the point of view of the victim instead of from the hero. And this is the first time in the history the story was told from the point of view of the victim, the innocent victim, which was Jesus, you know, Christianity. And this led to modernity, and, you know, led to sort of the end of mythological religion, like the end of mythological religion and the beginning of sort of modernity and science. And he talked about, it's a very interesting theory because he said this brought in the modern world, and the modern world is based on, modern Western world is based on love, truth, and novelty. Except love is very ambivalent because love very quickly turns into pseudo eros or bullshit, or kind of like a institutionalized. It gets institutionalized, and you're supposed to behave with compassion and love. So there's this intense ambivalence, right, with in this world where you don't have mythological superstructure, you don't have hierarchy, you don't know where you are in the world, on some level. So the love becomes institutionalized and corrupt, and then truth also becomes the pseudo truth, right? Just materialistic truth or scientific truth, or this kind of pseudo truth. And there's an intense ambivalence around truth, even though we all believe in truth. Like, these are all good additions, but they're all extremely ambivalent. And the last thing, innovation, right? Because you no longer have these strict tribal rules in your society of behaviors and laws, and in such an intense and intractable way. Suddenly you're in this ambivalent thing where you're supposed to be creating something new all the time, but it's sort of bullshit. You've lost your lineage, or you've lost your connection to the depth of history, and you're just creating this novelty, this empty novelty, like you find in contemporary art a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So there's this ambivalence always. So this is kind of what I'm feeling when I'm like, okay, so we got to find this new postmodern thing, and I feel ambivalent toward that. It's like, I feel ambivalent towards this idea of novelty, like why it has to be novel. I think it's almost better to do something old and do it right. Go back to silent films. Make a good silent film. I don't
know. How I can do this, because how do I do this? I wanted to show you something. Maybe I can do it here.
Because the original archetypes are always stronger, so every time you try to repeat the same archetype, you're just watering it down a little bit.
Do you hear that?
Oh, the new Beatles song. Is that what you're going to play?
No. Listen to it. Listen closely. I want to know what you think about this. I'm the trouble star, pumpkin instigated.
I know that voice.
Of course you know that voice.
I'm the fair addicted.
It's not Nick Cave, is it?
No.
It's not Jim Morrison, is it? Is it an AI bot of Jim Morrison?
Yes.
Ah.
It's a song from Prodigy, Firestarter. Run through an AI.
To try to sound like Jim Morrison.
Sounds like Jim Morrison. Really good.
I'm the pain you tasted, well intoxicated.
Interesting.
Insane, isn't it?
It is insane. I just don't know what to say or think about all that. Just like, I don't understand it. I mean,
and so it's like I just found that recently. I was shocked because of the quality, basically. And give me just another example, just short. Do you hear that?
You're just like an angel.
You're so precious. You're so fucking precious. Yeah, I'm a creep. That's radio. It's Frank Sinatra doing Radiohead.
And I'm beautiful. Wish I was special.
And it's an AI?
It's also an AI, yes.
I can kind of feel that a little bit
Yeah.
more that that's an AI. Slightly, I could feel slightly more AI in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so because of novelty, you know, I found that very interesting because it's like maybe it's because of my age, and maybe I'm so primed for, you know, grunge in the 90s era and, you know, the times before. But it's like this vagueness, this in-betweenness, you know, it's fake, but it's still Jim Morrison's voice, and that makes something. It's very weird. It's a very
It's
weird.
a weird feeling, isn't it? I always feel that with AI images. I feel kind of sick when I look at them.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know what I mean? With artificial intelligence, like they're really beautiful sometimes. You put something through and it's a reference to something else, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I like, whoa, it's beautiful, but it's so ugly at the same time.
Yeah.
It almost makes me sick to my stomach. And I wonder what that is.
Yeah, or sometimes I have the opposite, where I know that it's artificial, but it touches me anyhow because it's so perfect, it's so right.
Yeah, it's
You know,
that's true. Yeah,
and
that's true also.
That's such a weird headspace to be in.
It's a weird headspace. Like I wrote the phrase "in between worlds," right?
Yeah.
You know, and I created an AI image and I put it on one of our last newsletters. I don't know if you saw that, but I looked at that and I thought, wow, that's beautiful. It captures the emotion of being in between worlds, you know?
Yeah.
How did it do that? It's like magic. Like it captured, it actually captured the emotion. And like, it was one picture out of like 10 I tried, and most of them look kind of distorted and weird and bizarre and off. And there's this one that was like, ooh, there's something true in that image. But so the interesting difference is we don't create the image; the machine creates the image. But we are the ones we're the creators. We're not the artists anymore. You say, oh, that's a good one. So it's our discrimination which is at work rather than creating something. You know. That's kind of that's so we become more curators of image and text and everything else than we have become actual authors.
There was, you know, a couple of years ago, there was a viral video going on, you know, in reaction to, you know, postmodernism and, you know, postmodernism. It was called something like "Everything is a Mashup." And so it looked, the video, it was like a 90 minutes, you know, art project, looked, you know, at the way we produce and reproduce art, and that a very aspect of art that it's always a reproduction. You know, there's never, you know, it's like if you talk about,
exactly.
if we talk about The Killer in Fincher, it's like that's a reproduction. It is itself, it's also a product, but it's in a line of movies that do exactly the same. It's like going back to the very beginnings of, you know, crime novels and whatnot, and crime movies and Alain Delon. It's like it's a reproduction, and then you have. And then and so everything is a mashup. And then you have, you know, we are the generations for whom it is very weird to listen to a song like an AI song from Frank Sinatra or Jim Morrison, where it's just like in between. But imagine going forth like 2-3 generations, and I think maybe that will be normal for these people, that they do this, you know, they have a complete new understanding of mashing up, you know, Kurt Cobain doing some, you know, opera thing or whatever. It's like, that's, you know, it's just weird for us now, you know.
It's also the fact that, you know, it wasn't until like the 19th century romanticism where we even had the idea that we're supposed to have our unique expression, right?
Right.
That never existed before. I mean, you would just copy and copy and copy and copy and copy, and that's how you did art, in a way. Yeah, and if you had something like the great artists, of the early artists, they ascribed God as the author,
Right.
not themselves. And then humanism sort of came in, and we started to see things from sort of a humanocentric perspective, and then that broke down again with cubism and all that, whereas there is no such thing as a humanocentric perspective. Everything breaks down, and then you have this kaleidoscope and collage, and then that breaks down into just noise on some level. And then, so what do you do after when you get to the point of extreme saturation or noise? That's very interesting. Like, what do you do now? And so now they're going back and finding the old, reproducing old thing. The AI is reproducing old images to make new images. So that is almost, there's something about that is like, that's like reproducing images, which is how you used to learn things. It comes back also to mimeticism, like Girard's theory again of reproduction is that we are mimetic creatures. We learn by copying. That's how we learn. We're intensely mimetic creatures, way more than any other creature, right? So our intense copying, mimeticism, is now being, is now being done with AI. That's what, like, we're in a very odd territory, I think, very strange.
Yeah, but it's like it's only different in content, not by structure. I mean, like, if you look at how I've read that somewhere, like, if you look at the influences that made up, the elements that made up cubism from Picasso. So there is like this old African tribe, way of doing masks and depictions, and so he brought that in. And so it's not a complete, the elements were already there. He just put them together, right, and made the new and created this new way of painting, let's say.
Yeah, and at the end of his life, he said, "I just learned to paint like a child."
Yeah, but the elements of cubism, it's like the way of how the perspective changed. That was already there, and he just. And it's like, in principle, it's the same with AI music. It's just like the elements are there, just put them together in a new and novel way. And it's just weird for us, as it must have been for the people who were first exposed to Picasso's cubism. It's like, oh no, that's weird. Now.
Yeah, or even like sampling on records. When that came out, I thought, oh God, they're just stealing people's music.
Right.
And resampling it, but it wasn't. But they were doing something. It took some time to understand that they were doing something creative there,
right?
Or at least for the culture to understand that something creative was going on when they were when you're sampling something, and that sampling is something actually we do all the time,
right?
Because there's only, like, if you look at folk music, or something like that. Like, there's this guy, what is his name? Billy Strings. He's like the best bluegrass guitar player in the world, but he was also in a heavy metal band. So he's taking this form that's very strict bluegrass music, and he's got this guitar and he's got this kind of band, and he's electrifying his guitar and doing bluegrass that's electrified, and he's got long hair and he's like a metalhead almost. Whereas the original form was very strict. It was Bill Monroe. You play like this and you do this and you do this, and he's sort of breaking it apart and making it psychedelic. And I think, wow, I mean, and he's so good. So I was like, this guy is like, this is like somebody who's like Jim Morrison, right? For somebody who was brought up in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, or whoever, but we don't know who these people are because they haven't become part of the collective psyche yet.
Yeah.
But they're still there. I think they're still there. I think I don't think you can kill creativity. You can't kill Shakti. You can't kill that creative, no matter what kind of technologies you're working with.
Yeah.
You can't destroy that. It's just impossible. It just keeps coming. It's like surging forward, into new forms, and it doesn't matter it's not, the technology is not a threat. It's just it can be a hindrance, but
Yeah, I
not a
mean, it's like
threat.
it's novelty. You know what you say. It's like the you ascend on the pyramid of fame and status if you add a new mashup. If your mashup is somewhat new and novel, and that's the thing. And I feel again in terms of the Fincher movie, there was not a lot of novelty going on, and so that's why I think it's a lesser movie.
Yeah, a genre movie. Yeah, just a copy movie. Or so if this guy might have been the best bluegrass guitar player in the world, and he was just doing bluegrass, he would just be a sort of museum. He would just be like a museum piece artist, not an actual
Yeah,
artist.
yeah, exactly.
Because the actual artist has to destroy the form and rebuild it. But the mistake one would make would be not to learn the old forms, like not to be schooled in the old forms, in the traditional forms first. Like I always use the example of Cézanne, or Cézanne was classically trained and before he discovered aperspectival painting. He took all of his original stuff and put it in a barn and set it on fire but he had to learn. Yeah, he had to learn the tradition. So I always think we have to go back to traditions, before we can be novel. Rather, we can't just be novel for the sake of novelty. That doesn't work anymore. That avant-garde thing doesn't work anymore. What works is go and learn a form, a tradition, become the best in the world of that, and then just break it to pieces and create something new out of it.
Yeah,